What if I told you there's a door inside the Kremlin, one that even Putin himself never walked through? A sealed entrance. No nameplate. No guards. Just silence. It's not on any blueprint. Not in any public record. And yet, those who've worked inside Russia's power core whisper about it like it's a ghost story. They call it Room Zero. Now, imagine receiving a photo of yourself, taken in real time, from inside a room you never entered. That's exactly what happened to Vladimir Putin. And after that moment, he never mentioned the room again. In this episode of Hidden Chapters, we dig into the stories the Kremlin never confirmed, and the secrets that were never supposed to be written down. This isn't about conspiracy. It's about silence, and what that silence protects. Get ready for 20 minutes of tightly woven narrative. Based on real leaks, shadow reports, and the testimony of men who were only supposed to speak once, before they disappeared forever. This is Hidden Chapters. And this is the story of the place even Putin feared. Let's begin. No one expected it. Not even the ones who thought they knew him best. The last broadcast wasn't announced. It didn't appear on any official schedule. No teasers. No warning. Just a sudden flicker on the screens of Russia's state-owned channels. Then black. Then him. Putin's face wasn't lit by the usual studio lights. No flags in the background. No suited anchors framing his image. Just a tight shot, barely illuminated. The frame wobbled for a second before it stabilized. He leaned slightly forward. Eyes darker than usual. Voice quieter. Slower. Measured. "If you're watching this," he said, "then I no longer control what comes next." That sentence alone sent panic across command rooms and newsrooms alike. Was it a hoax? Deep fake? Coup? Hack? The Kremlin's official line was silence. Phones started ringing. Ministers scrambled. Intelligence officers froze. Because something about it felt real. Too real. The video didn't cut away. It just stayed on him. Breathing. Thinking. Staring into the camera like he wasn't looking at the nation, he was looking at someone specific. Someone watching. Maybe even someone he feared. He spoke about systems. About shadows behind governments. About debts not of money, but of loyalty. "There are debts," he said, "that once paid, erased the man who owed them." It wasn't his usual rhetoric. This wasn't the iron fist, confident speechmaker. This was a man cornered. Not by enemies, by decisions. Regrets. Maybe ghosts. Then came the list. 12 names. He didn't say what they did. Or who they were now. But each name, said clearly and slowly, cut through the air like an executioner's blade. 8 of them had died years ago. 2 were serving in his current government. 1 had vanished in 2009 and was assumed dead. And one was watching. That was the moment the signal cut out. No fade. No static. Just black. Across Russia, silence. In Europe, disbelief. In Washington, urgent meetings. No one claimed responsibility. No one knew where the footage had come from. And most terrifyingly, no one could confirm when it had been recorded. Because on that night, Vladimir Putin was supposed to be in Sochi, at a closed-door meeting, with no cameras. And yet there he was. Speaking into a lens. Leaving behind a riddle no one could solve. And a warning no one could ignore. The Kremlin went into lockdown. Phone lines shut. Staff questioned. The press secretary, missing for hours, was finally found in a basement conference room, staring at a paused frame of the broadcast, unable to speak. And then the ripple hit the foreign media. CNN. BBC. Al Jazeera. All broadcasting clips of the speech, dissecting every line, every pause. But it was the list, the 12 names, that set intelligence communities on fire. The 8th name was redacted in the subtitles, censored on state-backed networks. But someone had it. A frame-by-frame analysis pulled it out from the audio: Anton V. Kolesnikov. A name not heard in public since 2003. He wasn't a minister. Not an oligarch. Not a general. He was a technician. A quiet, behind-the-scenes operative who worked in early surveillance programs under the Soviet collapse. He'd retired into obscurity. No official record after 2004. Rumors placed him at a Siberian research station. Some said he defected. Some said he was silenced. But now, his name, said by Putin himself, was echoing across encrypted channels in internal briefings. Why him? The answer didn't come from Moscow. It came from Prague. A former FSB analyst, now in exile, posted a single sentence on a dark web forum. He was the last to hear the first recording. That phrase meant nothing to the public. But to those who lived in Putin's shadow, it meant everything. The first recording wasn't a myth. It was a moment, never released, captured before Putin officially came to power. A moment that some claimed showed the blueprint. The plan. The purge. Only 3 people were known to have access to that footage. 2 were dead. And the third? The technician. Anton. The broadcast hadn't been just a confession. It was a message. Not to the public. Not even to the world. It was to him. Because if Anton was alive, then the past wasn't buried. It was waiting. Somewhere in a village not found on any recent map, in a home with no internet and no name on the door, a man lit a candle. And played a tape. It wasn't labeled. But it had been sealed with a wax imprint, an old Soviet symbol worn smooth by time. The voice on the tape wasn't clear. But it wasn't Putin. It was someone else. It didn't have a name. At least not one anyone used. Old Soviet maps showed a patch of forest, a few service roads, and a rail line that ended nowhere. No satellite tags. No postal code. But the villagers had their own word for it, Zalivka. A nickname that meant the spill. Not because of any water. But because people who ended up there had, in a way, spilled out of the system. Forgotten. Erased. Anton arrived just after dawn. The sky was low, thick with cloud, and the silence was unreal. No traffic, no birds, just frost crackling beneath his boots. The bus that dropped him off wasn't on any schedule. He hadn't even paid. The driver had nodded, as if expecting him, and disappeared into the fog before Anton could ask a single question. 3 cottages. 1 dirt road. An old antenna tower bent from rust. That was Zalivka. Inside one of the cottages, a man with one eye and a handshake like steel opened the door. Said nothing. Just nodded and stepped aside. Anton entered. The place smelled like old film reels, dust, and vinegar. On the walls, maps. Hundreds. Some drawn by hand, some photocopied, others burned around the edges. And in the center of the room, a table, metal, cold, with a projector bolted to the surface. The man with one eye pulled out a reel. No label. Anton didn't need one. It was that tape. The one he'd heard once. 2 decades ago. The one he thought had been destroyed. But the man inserted it without a word, turned the crank, and the film began. Black and white. A room, dimly lit. Putin, much younger, sitting alone at a desk. Not reading. Not rehearsing. Just speaking. Calm. Measured. A man not campaigning but confessing. This country will not be led. It will be corrected. A phrase that had haunted Anton for years. But now it was followed by more. Unseen before. Names. Timelines. Operations. Anton reached for his notebook. The man stopped him. "No notes," he said, voice like gravel. "You don't write this down. You remember it." Anton sat back. Let the words carve themselves into his mind. It wasn't just a roadmap for power. It was a purge protocol. Names already known. Names about to disappear. Instructions so precise they felt surgical. And the voice, it didn't flinch. There was no doubt. No pause. As the film ended, the man spoke again. "There's one more." "One more what?" Anton asked. "Name. One that wasn't on the list. The only one who can end it." Anton felt his stomach turn. "Who?" The man looked at him, only one eye catching the flickering light of the dying projector. "You." Anton didn't answer. He couldn't. Outside, the wind picked up. Somewhere in the tree, Anton left the village that wasn't on any map with more than just memories. In his coat, hidden between the lining and a layer of insulation, was a microdrive barely larger than his fingernail. The old man had given it to him without explanation, only saying, "You'll know when to open it." By the time Anton returned to St. Petersburg, the world felt louder. Faster. More fragile. Everything was in motion, but none of it felt real. The crowds in the metro. The chatter in the cafes. All of it background noise to the images now etched in his mind. He barely noticed the woman following him. He only saw a reflection. In the smudged metal of the elevator door to his apartment. Blonde, short-cropped hair, leather gloves. Staring too long. When he turned, she was gone. But the smell of clove cigarettes lingered in the stairwell. Inside his apartment, he didn't take off his shoes. Didn't touch the lights. He went straight to the safe embedded behind the bookshelf, a leftover from his grandfather, a colonel during the Brezhnev years. Inside was a cracked laptop, long disconnected from any network. It booted with a hum and a flicker. Nothing modern. Nothing traceable. He inserted the microdrive. At first, nothing. Then a directory appeared. No names. Just timestamps. Dozens of them. Anton clicked the oldest one. A video. It began in silence. A room with bare concrete walls. A table. A chair. A man sitting, hands bound. His face bruised. His voice a whisper, "I was loyal. I followed the code." Then another timestamp. Another video. This one from a military office. A conversation recorded secretly. Putin, years younger, pacing. A general sitting stiffly. "We can't keep them all quiet," the general said. Putin didn't raise his voice. He only replied, "Then they won't stay alive." Anton sat back. Each file was worse than the last. Confessions. Surveillance. Interrogations. A library of ghosts. Evidence of a silent machinery grinding beneath Russia's surface. And through it all, Putin's voice, not always seen, but present. Then, the final folder. It was titled, Paracod. Anton hesitated. That word. It didn't just mean transition. In old spy code, it meant disappearance. Inside the folder, one file. A transcript. Marked with red lines and signatures. It detailed the contingency plan if Putin were ever incapacitated. Names of successors. Protocols. Military triggers. It was a place known only by codename, Room Zero. Hidden beneath a wing of the Kremlin that no public blueprint acknowledged, Room Zero was the kind of secret that didn't need guards, because no one dared to ask if it existed. Not even Putin. Not officially. Not directly. He'd walked past its sealed entrance 1,000 times. Marble floor. No nameplate. Just a sensor panel and a thin red line on the wall, barely visible under normal light. They said the key to Room Zero didn't look like a key, that it was biometric, that it required more than one person to open. Some even believed it wasn't a room at all, but a system, a kill switch network for global communications. Or maybe something worse. In 2012, during one of the most opaque reshuffles in the FSB's top hierarchy, a courier delivered a single envelope to Putin's residence. No name. No return address. Just a short note. "You've never asked what we keep beneath you." Attached was a photograph. Grainy. Low-res. But unmistakably taken from inside Room Zero. In it, a man sat alone at a steel desk, surrounded by walls of surveillance monitors. Every screen showed a different world leader in real time. Some of them were clearly inside private residences. Others were mid-conversation. One screen showed Putin himself, in his office. The timestamp matched the moment he'd taken the envelope from the courier's hand. He didn't show the photo to anyone. But he didn't destroy it either. He placed it inside a locked drawer, which was later transferred to a vault in Novo Oboriovo. He never asked about Room Zero again. But what disturbed him most wasn't the content of the monitors. It was the reflection in the glass behind the man at the desk. Because the faint figure visible, the one watching over the watcher, looked exactly like a younger version of himself. Theories swirled among those closest to the Kremlin. That Room Zero was a psychological deterrent. That it held clones. Or that it was where the real decisions were made, long before Putin ever signed off on them. But no one dared open it. Not even him. Because the final secret wasn't what was inside Room Zero. It was why even he had been locked out from the start. So, what was behind that door? A surveillance room? A secure command bunker? Or something more symbolic? Maybe it was never about what was inside, but about who was allowed to ask. Putin didn't mention Room Zero again after that night. Not in public. Not in any internal memo we've seen. The people who were involved disappeared, reassigned, silenced. No photos. No footage.